Welcome to the Winner's Playbook with Steve and Josh. Disclaimer: the information contained in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into account your personal circumstances. Please head to the show notes if you wish to book a free 15-minute call to discuss your personal situation.
So welcome back to the Winner's Playbook. My name's Steve. I'm here with my colleague Josh. Josh, how's your week been, mate? And what's it been eventful this week?
Jeez, how's the week been and what's been eventful? There's been a
Disappears pretty quick.
Hey?
Disappears pretty quick.
Yeah, it does. Well, we're in February now, aren't we? So we're rolling through the first quarter, and it's been an incredibly busy start to the year. You know, highlights this week. I'll say I've spoken to a lot of people and heard a lot of different stories. And yeah, just a lot of different experiences and speaking with clients that need lots of help in different array of areas. And it's just, there's never a day that's ever the same. And I think in what we do, and that's what keeps it interesting for me. And sometimes also chatting with people that I don't want to help as well, because they're a bit of a pain in the backside. So I've had a few of those because we're speaking with so many people, and sometimes there's people you ultimately can't help as well, unfortunately. But what about yourself, Steve? How's the week been?
Good, mate. A lot of business stuff this week. So,
Yeah.
Our jobs as the directors is to work a lot on the business, and I've been doing a lot of that this week. And I think we've nailed a few things that have been quite good to set us up for the year. But yeah, busy, lots of client interactions. But, obviously we've got a multifaceted financial services business. So there's just a number of different balls in the air at any one time. I reckon at any one time, I've probably got 40 different things in the air to deal with, which can make it very interesting. And as you said, the days just disappear, mate, to be honest. I sometimes think it's like 2 hours and all of a sudden the day's over.
Yep.
It's just crazy. But it keeps us alive, keeps us kicking, keeps it interesting, and that's what it's all about, right?
A few more grey hairs as well, yeah, Steve?
No, I'm going down in age, I've been told. So no, not going down. We won't talk about the grey hairs today. It's not about me. So
all right. Well, what are we talking about? So we're talking about, tips and how to sort of excel in your career, maximize and notably obviously maximizing income and growth off the back of that. It's obviously a little bit different from the perspective that we're going to be looking at it, but I guess we're going to have two different journeys here to touch on in terms of like career trajectories and what that has looked like for both of us. But what about a bit on your side, Stephen? I know we've spoken about this on some other podcasts before, but just starting from our own situation, like what has been your career trajectory, like working for someone when you started Link, and how's all that been?
Yeah, so I started probably doing my own thing originally at a very young age. 2021, I owned a bar in Sydney at that age, and that was good
broke,
fun.
Steve? Did you drink it? Did you drink too much there, or what happened?
No, I was very well behaved, but it actually I wish I was a lot smarter with my money, to be honest, back then.
Yeah, sure.
But it did fund a lot of travel. I went and lived in London for a while. I paid for all that, so that was good.
Nice.
Did some study, and then I actually went into finance at the age of 25, into accounting, and did accounting at that stage, and joined Ernst & Young, which is one of the bigger practices in Australia. That was cool. And then worked for a couple other businesses like General Electric. I went and did finance for them for a while, and then slotted into financial services, into funds management after that. So I worked for a number of different big corporations after being my own boss, I suppose if you call it that. But then, underlyingly, I always had the drive to really have my own passion and get back into doing my own thing. So that's where I found financial services. I liked financial services. So I stayed with financial services, but I've ended up back in doing, being my own boss again. And I did that from, I got back into being my own boss at the age of 29-ish. Or 30, I think it was, after leaving all those corporates and getting my education. But I did a big stint there of education just to make sure I had all my education up and going and had all the right degrees and, chartered accountant qualifications, whatever it may be.
Yep.
So that was really, really my journey. And to be honest with you, when I was working for corporates, I probably didn't really excel. I don't think I excelled when I worked for corporates at all. I was okay. Like, I got into programs and finance programs that were good and were hard to get into, but would you say I excelled? Probably not really, because I don't think I enjoyed it as much. And I probably was, if you call it the 9-to-5er. I definitely wasn't putting in any hard
clock
yards.
Out, Steve. I wouldn't take you as that.
The old timesheet. And that probably got noticed. To be honest, I think my bosses at the time probably thought I was mediocre. To be honest, it was only when I found that passion, and really then and going today, the work ethic went through the roof when I go, right, I enjoyed it. So my excelling point in my career, and probably the real tipping point, was when I became a business owner and enjoyed it.
Mm.
And that was really the two key parts of me. And then it really, my career took off, to be honest. Like, it at that point, and I wasn't actually earning a lot of money when I first started, to be honest. It actually wasn't really about that for me. The big ticket item was, I remember looking back, especially one of the big companies, I won't name who it was, but it was a big company. And I remember going to each day and hating my life. I actually hated everything about my life, and that was because I hated my job that much.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just hated it, to be
Yeah.
honest. It was really bad, and it was mentally bad. It was
Mm.
it was actually that draining, that it was mentally really tough, and I hated everything about life because of that.
Mm.
And so I look back at that, and then I compare it to then going in and finally connecting the dots of my career. And I think that's why I excelled so hard once I hit the spot, because I remember what it was like, how bad it was,
Mm.
and I changed it. And then I just get, right, I've got it now, and just went for it. Like, I would start work at 4 a.m. and I would not finish until 12 at night. And I would do that 7 days a week because I loved it.
Yeah.
And then Link got born, and you've come along, and away we
Mm.
go together, right? So,
Yeah.
and then the world's our oyster.
Yeah.
Let's go Dubai. Let's open up the world, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's mate. That's me. That's me. That's my journey. But I'd say it's connected to those dots, and then bloody hard work, right? Bloody
Yeah.
hard work. Yeah. How
But it
about
sounds like a
yourself?
bit of trial and error, like obviously trial and error in there and trying things to figure out what you don't like and
Yeah.
then continue to sort of bounce around until you kind of find your lane.
Yeah, definitely. And don't be afraid to do it. Don't be afraid to do
Yeah.
trial and error, and just stuff it up sometimes and get it wrong. I got it wrong, right? I got it wrong by probably doing some bits of career that was not right for me. I don't regret it, because it taught me a lot still. It taught me
Yeah.
what's good and what's not good, and what I enjoy, what I don't enjoy. So it definitely taught me things, but I definitely
Yeah.
stuffed a few decisions up along the journey.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's life.
Yeah.
But definitely don't be afraid to keep changing it until you get there,
Mm.
until you get there. I think that's the key message. But I think, getting those dots connected not only helps you from excelling your career, but just enjoying life,
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
no, I totally agree. And I think that's the issue these days, like with high school kids, is you're sort of expected to know what you want to do for the rest of your life in year 12. And,
Yeah.
even talking on my own journey, like I had no idea what I wanted to do when I was in, actually, no, I did. When I was in year 12, I thought I was going to be a UFC fighter.
Oh, geez.
I
Here we
thought,
go.
I thought I was going to be sort of fighting all over the world
Oh,
and doing
God.
that. And then, life sort of changes a
Ended up
little
in
bit. But
finance.
yeah, and what's a funny story as well is in school, like you would think, all right, I'm in financial advice, I probably love math and numbers and things like that. I actually dropped math at year 9 or 10, and
Jeez.
I remember sitting in class, and I was a pest, like in high school. I was a
Yeah.
terrible, just in general, getting in trouble and things like that. And I said to my teacher, I'm like, this is useless. Like, what am I ever going to use trigonometry or anything for? And I was that person that would call it out like that. So I actually dropped math in year 10 because it was year 11 and 12 was when you could start picking your subjects. So I was like,
Yeah.
nah, don't want anything to do with it. And then obviously fast forward through high school, got out of high school, bounced around like you, similar, few different things, studies. Then I deferred. I was working in security, doing some concreting at the time, full time. And then, always had that thing about money. Like had little side hustles and things like that through high school and little sort of my own little hustles and ventures that I was always doing. But yeah, just was never really exposed, I think, to business and investing at a young age. So I just sort of stumbled upon it myself. But then I remember thinking, kind of like you, when I was concreting, I did it for 2.5 years. And don't knock anyone that's in a trade or anyone that's in concreting field, because you might be great at it and love it. And
Totally.
my boss I was working for, he's built for it, and that's just his thing, and he's great at it. But I was thinking, like, some days I was there and we're out early morning and it's like 35, 40 degrees, and I'm just baking there in the sun. And I'm
Jeez.
like, God, this can't be the rest of my life. Like this,
Yeah.
if this is in, I used to have those same thing. I'm like, shit, I can't do this. Like, I just
Yeah.
can't keep doing this for the rest of my life. And, fortunately then at that time, I'm like, all right, something's needs to change. I like money. I like the thought of investing because I wasn't doing it at the time. and then started doing the courses to get into the industry. And to get into our industry back then, it was quite easy. You could just do a diploma and
Yeah.
get in. And then I did a diploma back then and got into the industry, and was luckily that a place would even take me with no experience. So there was a place that let me in the door, and I'd never worked in an office or put on a, slacks and a shirt or a tie. So that was kind of my first entry, but then got into the first couple of places I worked at, but then I didn't feel like what financial planning was. It was just more about selling products like insurance and things like that. And I had no passion in that whatsoever. So I'm like, all right, I'm in a bad place. Moved on to the next one, had a pretty similar experience there. And then I think it was when I was about, what was it, 23. I was like, all right, third and final place, I'm giving it a crack. And this was when I was living down in the southeast, and where Link Wealth is in Camberwell, Hawthorne. So it was a bit of a drive out. I'm like, shit, all right, we'll give it a crack. So obviously came out for the interview, and was yourself and another gentleman at the time was in that interview. And I still remember you specifically asked me, all right, Josh, where do you want to be in 2 or 3 years? And I said, I'll either be like a partner or owner or have my own firm. And I still remember saying that.
Yeah, I remember.
And then literally fast forward 3 years, say from that point. And obviously then, we now are in business together and own a part of the company and the other entities that we do have. But, I was, always clear and knew what and where I wanted to go, and then put in the level of work to ultimately get there. And that's happened very rapidly. So I'm in my late 20s. I don't know how old I look on the podcast, but I'm not in my 40s or 50s yet. Yes. Well, that's just from hard work, I think that's why I've had to shave my head and get rid of those. Yeah, well, I've had to get rid of those grey hairs because they tend to come out a bit more at Link Wealth. But I think the biggest thing for me, though, is when I joined Link, is there was no limitation on where I could go from there. And I think particularly, when you just kind of gave me all of the opportunity, and I could have quite easily just become a good average advisor, but I had this determination to just be the best and biggest and strongest that I possibly could. And want to earn good money from that, but, want to set up my family for a good lifestyle, got things and milestones I want to hit, and all of the opportunity was there. And I think I just landed in the right place. I could have easily went for another job somewhere else, and I don't know how that would have played out or where things would have been. And I think sometimes in life, kind of like you sort of bounce around, and then eventually it just kind of it works in, and it just happens for a reason. You just end up at that spot, and you were meant to have all of those failures or try out those different bits and pieces, and then you end up, and then I eventually found what I want to do for the rest of my life. And like you said, work ridiculous hours, but it doesn't feel like work for me. So, if any point in time, if I actually want to work, which I know people sometimes don't understand, like if ever I can sneak in some work, I'm doing it. Like on the weekend, I actually need to peel myself off, which it actually feels hard to sometimes do that, but it doesn't really feel like work for me. And obviously then how I've sort of landed to the position that we are and where we are now. But I think it's critical to understand that not everyone's going to want to do that either. And running companies is not easy, and a lot of stresses, and is certainly not for everyone at all. So
what do you reckon it is? Like, so you came into Link and obviously, got an opportunity, but you got an opportunity for various reasons. What do you think it was that you made me give you that opportunity to get where you are today? What do you think it was?
Yeah, what it made you to give me that opportunity? Well, yeah, it's a tough one. I think there's multiple ways to look at that. Like the way I always look at it is like you weren't trying to hold it all for yourself. And I think that's a big thing about if you want to grow, is realizing it's much easier to grow with other people around you. And if you've got your head screwed on, you realize you can't do it all alone. Like you need to have other people, at the front there pushing, because you're going to have those shit days, and having someone else there. And then that's like, kudos to you getting Link to where it was like on your own, because it's when you're making all of the decisions and the buck stops just solely on you, like, there's no one else to blame for any of what goes wrong. And then it's, if something ever goes wrong, well, it's Steve,
Now
but I guess now I'm there to, now I can take some of that blame as well, but it's obviously it's an incredibly tough journey to get to that. And that's, I think a big part of what we're talking about here then is, like, what does it take to be successful and excel in your career? And like, if that is for you, but one of the things that we're talking about, like, what are some of the traits then do you think that successful people have? Like, what are some that stand out on your end, Steve?
Well, I suppose on the other side of the fence, me, looking at you, and this is a common trait I think across. I've seen it clearly, just determination, You know, the people, you have to have determination. You've got to have guts. You've got to be able to fight. And I mean, like, fight hard. You know, things aren't going to go right all the time. It actually, a lot of the time doesn't go right, right? But you've got to be able to just fight through it and deal with it and take it head on. So you look for that. Clearly, work ethic, right? Yeah, a high work ethic. You just can't get a ticket to the game unless you're not going to output higher than 95% of the population, in my view. You know, so put all that together. I think that's how you excel in your career and get in the right spot. Like, you worked hard to get to the spot where you'd come to Link, and that opportunity, connecting those dots, right? Get yourself in those positions, but also get yourself, I think, with the right people. Like, you know, I was the right person probably for you at that time. If you'd walked into another place that probably didn't think like I did, because you were quite young, and, you know, taking someone on as a director at that age is a different
risk.
level. It's a risk, right? A lot of people maybe not think like that. So you've got to get also partnered up with the right people. So I'd say that, just go put all that together, get in the right position and work hard, and, you know, that's how you can excel in your career. That's for sure.
Yeah, so some I had noted there, which was like your number one, work ethic. So you're not working 9 to 5. Like, if you want to think like that for the rest of your life, like, expect to get average. Like, that's average. You can always be replaced at any point in time. If you want to be a business owner, forget that. So that's not even what you're thinking about. But if you don't want to be a business owner, from time to time, you're not going to be working 9 to 5, and you're going to have to put in some hours if you want to earn the big dollars. And, a couple of others that I, put down in terms of, like, when you have bad days, they don't turn into bad weeks. So you just got to show up. And particularly, like we always harp on about it at Link, is like that culture. And, you as an individual, it's like the organization is like an organism, and your energy affects other people around you, and managing your energy, I think, is crucial as a leader, and not being an owner, just a leader in a business, because that can have a massive impact from those around you. So learning how to manage that and not letting those bad days kind of get you down. And I guess of just always having that mindset, which sometimes it's hard to understand, but like, not really being satisfied. Like, there's always just something more you could be doing. And then you think about that and go, well, that's a pretty miserable way to live your lifestyle, because then you're never going to be happy. Well, it's not really about that, in my opinion. It's just like, if you, and this is something I know we've spoken about, I want to get quoted up on the wall at Link, is like, if you're not growing, you're dying. So if you're not actually progressing and you're not pushing yourself in life, well, then, like, what are you doing? And I know, for one, if I wasn't pushing and trying to achieve different things, like, God, I'd be probably doing some bad stuff. So, it's got to it keeps you on the straight and narrow. And I think if you've definitely got that desire and energy, like, you just got to find that outlet for it and have that growth mindset. Like, I always harp on about the mindset. The mindset, is a massive one as well.
Yeah, totally. They're very similar to what I had, because I said to continually upskill and learn something new. So we at Link, whether it's us or the team members, we're constantly looking at the next skill set to get better at what we do and learning something new. And we went from just doing wealth, then adding on mortgage broking. Now we've got an accounting arm as well, and then we've got an offshore business that supplies admin staff to us and others around Australia. And now we're looking at developing a registered training organisation so we can train the next level of advisors in Australia. So, we're constantly looking at the next driver to drive the business forward. And I think that's just key to be successful. Continually pushing it, continue to look at opportunities, continue looking at revenue streams. And my message out there to people, if you're looking to get more money in 2024 and you're working for someone, well, go do what the business owners do. And that's what you and I do, which is go find another revenue stream, or go push another growth side of the business, or add value. If you want to get in, like, the opportunities you got with Link, you got to bring it to the table, right? You can't, it's not going to fall in your lap. So go talk to the owners, or go talk to the managers and say, how can I add value here? And go implement it. And that's the best way to show value. And the opportunities will come falling through your, into your fingers if you do that.
Yeah, and then so that leads into, well, let's talk about from growing a career. Let's talk about a career. So not just from a business perspective
Mm.
and trying to excel in your career. Like some of the points, and there are some crossovers in this, but I think most importantly, if you want to excel in your career, and anyone listening that's in that situation, like my starting point was just, okay, figure out what you want. Like, so I knew where I wanted to go from the beginning. So that was for me, and I wasn't stopping till I get there. But not everyone wants to do that. Like not everyone wants the stresses of running business and staff and all the other problems that come with it, and that's okay. So figure out what you want, and that's where I think it's good just to understand in the organization you're at, like particularly if you're at a large organization or even small, is like, where is the end for you? Like if you keep going at the rate that you are, like where can you get to? And then
Yeah.
and that's when you think about, like, if you look forward and you want to be earning big dollars, but you're in a place where it's just clearly not, there's no potential for it. Well, you obviously need to find a new place to work or a new industry to ultimately be in. So I think the start point is just actually get clear on what you want and be honest about that. Don't think, oh yeah, it sounds great being a business owner, but then you get in the hot seat and you're just, no, it's not good whatsoever. So I think you have to be honest around, like, have a conversation. So sit down with the leaders in the business or wherever you're in or working at, and say, hey, this is what I want. This is where I want to be. Like, what's a bit of a pathway to then get there? You're obviously not going to get it overnight, but have that pathway. And I think also and this is one thing I always did, and I've always done in life, is I've always thought like I had or was in the position of where I wanted to be before I had it, if that makes
Mm.
sense. So
Yeah.
like when I was an employee and just an advisor at Link, before I was in any management whatsoever, I always just thought like a manager, and like was thinking of things like if I was an owner. So I was already like thinking like that mindset. And then when it happened, it didn't really materially shift the way I thought about things because I was already in that mindset. So,
Yeah.
I would say, like, if you want to be in a particular role and say you want to be a manager in your business or whatever it may be, like, just start thinking about that. You don't need the title to be where you want to be, and then you'll ultimately get there if you look at it like that. So that's always something I've used in getting anything I want in life, is thinking like I already had it, and then most importantly having the actions then behind it. But what are some on your side, Steve, in terms of growing a career?
Oh, look, I think, growing your career, I think the upskilling part's crucial. You
Yeah,
continue to just push the skill set. From my own perspective, I might be the managing director, but that's irrelevant because I still got to get better and learn more and continually take on new stuff. We, as you said before, you either grow or sort of die, right? And that's for everyone. It doesn't matter what
yep,
position you are in a company.
yep,
You got to lead from the top, and that's clearly you got to do that. So if I'm not
yep,
learning, why should the other guys learn and
yep,
girls? So I think continually push your skill set. It's also good for personal development as well. Um,
yep,
and just add that value and absolutely communicate. Like, as you said,
yep,
communicate with your bot managers. So if you want to achieve stuff and go get it, um, good bosses and good companies will support that. They will encourage you to go to that next level and give you that pathway to get there. I
yep,
know for myself, I want my staff to communicate with me. If they want to achieve something or get to a certain level, I want to talk to them because that's great
yep,
in my book. That is really good signs for a staff member if they go, right, Steve, I want to hit this. What do I need to do to get there? Well, let's talk about it. But just
yep.
communicate. So don't put your head in the sand. And if your boss has a negative reaction to that, well, it's definitely probably not the right spot for you. That's for sure.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. And in terms of like the last part we're going to touch on here is then, how do people grow their income and make more money? And I guess, we don't need to talk about investing because that kind of goes without saying. We talk about investing all a lot, but I think if you're in, talking from a career perspective, well, how do you do that? Don't have the victim's mindset is what I'll throw in there. And just, you got to figure out how to actually get more valuable to the organization or industry that
Yeah.
you work in. Like,
Yeah.
don't walk in and ask for the world when you've got nothing that you can show that you're worthy of that whatsoever. And I think that's like, if the average is X amount of income in your industry and you're just doing the average, like, don't expect to be paid much more than that. And don't then put the blame on where you are for that as well. Like, that's where you got to take it on your, take the initiative and take control of it and go, well, all right, to get to the income level maybe that I want to then get to, or the position, I probably need to upskill. Maybe I need to do a master's, or I've only done a diploma right now. But to get to that next level role or leadership or wherever it is, there's probably some courses. Maybe I need to I don't know how to manage people. So maybe there's a course on leadership that I'm going to go and do, because if I stay in the role that I am right now, well, I don't have a responsibility to look after anyone. So, why is someone going to want to pay me more? So I think like what separates you from the person next to you? And if you're both getting the same, like if you're not doing anything different, like don't expect different results and in terms of what you're actually earning as well. So I think you just have a good hard look at yourselves and be honest about what you're actually bringing to the table. And is it any different than anyone beside you doing the exact same thing? And then if not, well then, all right, figure out a plan in terms of so you can actually grow from that if you do so want to, but be proactive. Steve, anything else on that?
No, I totally agree. Totally agree with all that. 100%.
Yeah, cool. And then in terms of closing, another thing I would say is like always, the one thing I always do is stop comparing yourself to who you sort of were and compare yourself to where you're trying to be. So like looking back is great, but I think always comparing yourself to like where you then want to be rather than just, look back a year and give yourself a little pat on the back. So even when you have those successes, don't sort of like rest on your laurels in a way and get comfortable because you can easily get, settled and then you start earning that good income, which we're talking about here. And then, then the hunger sort of falls over a little bit and then you sort of plateau. But Steve, anything else you would add before we close out here?
Keep driving to the next level. Exactly what you just said. Don't rest on your laurels. Just keep pushing, keep going. And because someone like if you do that and don't continue to grow, someone will just overtake you. So you if you want to be a leader, you want to be the best. Just keep pushing yourself and push yourself hard, and you'll always be ahead of the pack. That's for sure.
Agreed. All right. Well, Steve, that is all we've got time for this one. So everyone, appreciate everyone that's listening and please give us 5 stars on Apple and Spotify if you're getting value for this, and check out the notes on our socials as well and on Spotify because we do have a newsletter that you can subscribe to if you want to hear and see more of us. And as always, if you do want to chat about your personal finances, go onto the Link Wealth website. We do have a link there. You can chat with any of the advisors within the business. But if not, Steve, I will see you on the next one, mate.
Great chatting. See you, mate.
Done.
Bye.
Cheers, mate. Bye.